Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Hope you are well. And everybody's fine. How many do we have? 4 on the stream. Okay, let me just check on something. Assalamu alaikum. I can't see this comment for some reason. It won't let me slide down. Assalamu alaikum to the participants. Very important subject. Yes. No, that's me. Okay. And Assalamu alaikum per honim tuka. I can't say that. Why is my maybe if I type. Wait, I can't see the last comment for some reason. All right, anyway, let's get started. And there we go, that's better. Okay. Zakat in the Quran. Yeah, it's an important topic. I'm not sure, some people might think it's a pretty boring topic, but there's some important things I just want to mention about zakat in the Quran. Let me highlight that, and let me get my man here again. Assalamu alaikum. ربي أعوذ بك من همزات الشياطين وأعوذ بك ربي يحضرون. All right, there we go. Okay, so zakat in the Quran. Okay, so first of all, some important points here. It's mentioned, I think, around 28 times in the Quran. That was just a little search I did on my phone app. It could be mentioned in other forms or something like that, but 28 times. And then it's mentioned, of course, from the very earliest surahs to the latest. Okay, from the beginning, it's mentioned throughout the Meccan period and throughout the Medina period. Some of the earliest surahs mention zakat, and some of the latest mention zakat, and mentioned constantly with salah. Okay, aqimu salah wa atu zakah. Okay, establish salah and give the zakah. All right, and also in other formats, الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة, those who establish salah and give the zakah. Okay, the word itself is related to purity and purifying and growth. Okay, so all of that comes into that. It's basically sort of like the idea of a plant. You know how you have to prune a plant sometimes just to make it so then it will grow. And if you don't prune it, if you don't remove some of the dead leaves, the dead, the dead parts at the ends, it will stop growing. It won't grow. Okay, so that kind of thing. Yeah, zakat is that kind of purifying which allows growth. Okay, it's a purifying something which when you purify something, it can promote growth. Same thing in our bodies and in our health, right? So you purify your body, purify your diet, and it can promote growth of muscle, of hair, of whatever. Okay, so that's something. Now, but despite that it's mentioned throughout the Quran from the beginning till the end, according to inherited Sunni Islam, it's not the same with Shia Islam. Actually, the Shia have this right, but in inherited Sunni Islam, the categories who are to receive the zakat, okay, and of course we're talking here about zakat. It's something you give from wealth. So I'm not moving away from that. In terms of like how the people would say about salah, it's not the ritual prayer. Some might also say that the zakat is not a giving of wealth. It's not a type of charity. I'm not moving away from that idea. So according to inherited Islam, they say that the categories which receive the zakah are explained and listed in Surah 9. Okay, and Surah 9 was revealed in the 9th year of Hijrah. Okay, so it was after Tabuk and about a year before the Prophet's death. So very, very late, very, very late. And so, the problem is with that is, of course, you're saying that for over 20 years, God is commanding zakat without saying who should receive it and not saying what it is, pretty much. Okay, but let's look at the verse that mentions and which is part of all the fiqh now, the Sunni fiqh jurisprudence, which says who should receive zakat, okay, it's lifted from this verse. Excuse me. And the verse says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنما الصدقات للفقراء والمساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم. Zakat expenditures are only for, so even here you see it in translation, zakat expenditures are only for the poor and for the needy and for those employed to collect the zakat, in brackets they have this is Sahih International again, and for bringing hearts together, for Islam, and for freeing captives, or slaves, and for those in debt, and for the cause of Allah, okay, وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل, and for the stranded traveler, فريضة من Allah, a farida from Allah. Okay, so this is something which is mentioned as being a fard. Okay, it's a sadaqah which is fard, now is being made a fard now. Okay, so in this verse it's coming up, it's being made a fard. Okay, but wasn't zakat already a fard? Okay, before, why is it now it is being mentioned as if this is something different? And but the key point that I want to mention is, of course, the verse itself. What does it say? It says innamal sadaqat, truly the sadaqat, not the zakat. Yet look how it's it's put here to be zakat in the translation, and that's of course just like I said, from all of the fiqh, the Sunni fiqh, that's what it is. Okay, the sadaqat mentioned in this verse is the zakat. Okay, the 2.5% that's collected. Okay, this is the sadaqat here, and that's what the same. And it's there's not much thought that goes into why isn't it saying here innama zakat? Why does it say sadaqat? They say okay, zakat is a form of sadaqah, and that's it, and they move on. Okay, yet this is pretty much changing the words of the Quran, right? So instead of the sadaqah, as it's mentioned here, you say zakat. Okay, and a few verses earlier, same surah, because that part here is saying who the zakat is for, and it's said as a reaction almost to those who were not happy how the Prophet was distributing the sadaqat. So it says here, minhum man yalmizuka fi sadaqat. Among them are those who criticize you concerning the distribution of charities. Okay, now you're writing charity. Okay, in the verse which will come two verses later, this one, it's the same thing, sadaqat. Okay, here it is, sadaqat, same. Here you write charity, okay, whereas here you write zakat, right? But anyway, it's the same thing. So this is continuing on the same. It's two verses earlier. It's talking about the same thing. So it says those who criticize you concerning the sadaqat, the charities, so that when they are given of them, they approve, they're happy. When they are given from it, they are happy, pleased. But if they are not given from them, at once they become angry and displeased. And also corroborating this, in narrations, the Prophet, after the 9th year of Hijrah, after Tabuk, okay, he used to send out musaddiqeen. That's why it's mentioned in the narrations in the hadiths. It doesn't say collectors of zakat. Musaddiqeen literally means those who will collect sadaqat. It's the same. It's taken from the same word, sadaqah, musaddiqeen, right? Those who are collecting the sadaqat for the Prophet. Okay, so they were going out collecting the sadaqat, this fard sadaqah. Okay, this has been made a farida now, this type of sadaqah, in order to take care of this, because by then Medina, it had become like a state. It wasn't just a small city anymore. Okay, it wasn't a small city state. By Tabuk, most of the Arabian Peninsula was ruled by the Prophet. Okay, so these people are people that need to be taken care of more systematically, and so that's why it is now farida. And that's why, of course, now all major nations, they have certain taxes on their citizens in order to use that revenue to be spent back on the citizens who are less, who are in need. Okay, so that's all that this is. It's when Medina became big enough. Okay. So again, it says the Prophet was sending out musaddiqeen, not people who collected zakat. So obviously, this collection of sadaqah by the state, and that seems to be this 2.5%. It isn't the zakat that is mentioned in the Quran and which the Quran has been speaking about from the beginning of Mecca. Okay, it can't be. Okay, so what is the zakat? What is the zakat? Like many things, like when you're talking, if you're going to be, investigating the issue of fighting, these kind of rule-based things, fighting, or the issue of this, the sex of slave girls, "Ma malakat aymanukum," all right, or understanding deen, or even basic morality. Okay, look at where these things are first mentioned, where the start is, where the idea started. Because remember, the Quran was being brought down bit by bit, okay, piece by piece, okay, and it was trying to develop the people who were accepting it. Okay, so it was developing the ideas for them. Okay, building on previous ideas, building on something. When something is first mentioned, then it's built upon. Okay, so look, in these sort of things, look at what's first mentioned. So when the first verses of which mention fighting are all saying, that you should not be the aggressor. قاتلوا في سبيل الله الذين يقاتلونكم ولا تعتدوا إن الله لا يحب المعتدين. Fight in the cause of God against those who fight you, but do not aggress. Truly, God loves not the aggressors. Okay, and that a verse like that can't be abrogated, by the way. At the end of it, God is saying God loves not the aggressors. That's why you shouldn't aggress. That's not going to change in the future, and God's going to start loving the aggressors. All right. But anyway, I'm diverting. The same thing with the issue of ma malakat aymanukum. These must be married. Okay, they must be married. Look at the first verses which mention about on this topic. They talk about how it's permitted for you to marry them. Okay, it's within the confines of marriage. There's no sex in Islam allowed outside of marriage. And the same thing with understanding deen. I mean, I made 2 videos about that, about that surah, Surah Al-Ma'un, where it mentions deen for the first time. I called it Surah Deen in those videos. But again, looking at that, it helps you straight away. It's the idea is being founded for you there, okay? And then it's going to be built upon there. So over there, that's the first time it's mentioned deen. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Do you see the one who rejects the deen? Okay, it's a rhetorical question asking you about that because God is going to teach you what that means. And then right all the way till the end, when the last verse is revealed about the Quran, which is, today I've perfected for you your deen. Okay, so between that first mention of deen and the last mention of deen, okay, that concept is being built. Okay, the idea is being built. The very first verse is sort of breaking away, in Surah Al-Ma'un, it's breaking away what people think is deen in God's sight. Right? And that last verse is saying, now you understand what deen is. But anyway, so where always look at where something is first introduced. Okay, that can be key. And so where is that? Where is the zakat first introduced? It's first introduced and basically defined in one of the earliest surahs, Surah Al-Layl. So in this verse, the last few verses of the surah, the last 4 or 5. So it mentions, of course, those who are going to go to hellfire, and then it says, وَيَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. But the righteous, the ones of taqwa. Again, remember what we keep on saying, that the Jannah is for the muttaqeen, for the people of taqwa. Okay, so يَتَجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى. The one who will not come near the fire is the one who has taqwa. Okay, he will avoid it. Okay, and here we're talking about what is this person who has taqwa. This is a kind of definition which helps us understand taqwa as well. Which muttaqi? It's saying here, الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى. And this is basically the definition of zakat. This is what zakat is. So when the Muslims had received this first, one of his earliest surahs, and they read this, and then later on when they were hearing, الذين يؤتون الزكاة, those who yu'tu, who give the zakah, this is the verse that would be ringing in their heads beforehand. This is what it's talking about. الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى. He who gives from his wealth in order to purify himself. Okay, and then the surah continues, وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى, and not giving for anyone who has done him a favor or to be rewarded. Okay, so basically not doing it out of wanting a reward from anybody, and not giving this zakah in order to pay back somebody a favor. No, the reason why he's doing this, why? إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى. but only seeking the countenance, the face of his Lord Most High, وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. Okay, and soon he will be satisfied. Okay, so this is given a very high bar of what zakat is and what sort of a perfect giving of zakat is. That's what basically is being mentioned here. Okay, a very high level of what it means to be a person who gives zakat. Okay, somebody who gives zakat in this way is a true muhsin. Okay, and that's why again there's that link between taqwa and ihsan. Okay, even in the Arab world right now, when they talk about those who give charity, they call them al-muhsinin. The charity givers are called al-muhsinin, right? And so to be a person who gives zakat in this way, okay, that in of itself is something which will lead to Jannah, to God's pleasure. وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. Okay, إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ الْأَعْلَى وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى, and he shall be pleased. I mean, Jannah is not mentioned explicitly here, okay, but of course, this person is already to be mentioned that he's a person of taqwa, the one who gives in this kind of way. So there's a very high level of zakah that's being mentioned here. But the idea of what it is being defined. Okay, so this is what I wrote here. This is one of the earliest surahs, and this is the first mention of zakat, and as literally giving of your wealth, trying thereby to gain purity and grow, basically. Yuti ma'lahu yatazakkan. That's what zakat is. Okay, it's not that you wait for a year to give 2.5% of your surplus wealth, whatever. That might have been a obligatory sadaqah that the Prophet put in place in order to take care of the needy. Okay, and that might and it's adaptable to the state. Okay, because it's saying that verse which is about the sadaqat, it's saying the sadaqat are for these groups of people, and if in order to look after these groups of people, the tax needs to be a bit higher, then it should be higher. Okay, because the sadaqat are for them. Okay, it's not for you to pay your 2.5%. It's to look after these people. Okay, and if that needs to be 3%, 4%, 5%, then that's what it needs to be. Okay, it's a fariida. Okay, we have to look after these people in society. Anyway, but for this, and that's why the zakat is mentioned all the time of salah. Just like salah is a very personal, private thing you're doing to try to increase your dhikr, your remembrance of God, to help you, stay away from the fahsha and munkar, right? To increase your khushu' of Allah. So that's why it's always mentioned together with that, because zakat is also it's a sort of a second branch to that, because somebody can do that all the time, but still be attached to the worldly wealth, attached to this material realm. Okay, and so what given zakah does is it purifies you from that. You are forcing yourself to give of your wealth. Okay, forcing yourself to give some of that away. Okay, if you recognize in yourself some form of attachment to wealth and attachment to the material possessions, okay, you force yourself to give away, and that is a way of purifying yourself. Okay, you're giving away that attachment, you're releasing it. Okay, so purity from attachment to wealth and money and the things of this lower world. Okay, and growth in your compassion and your empathy and your spirituality and your desire for God's face. Okay, so it's actually a very good thing for somebody who, of course, I'm not suggesting that everybody should be all the time giving charity and to the detriment of their own well-being or that of their family, their financial situation. You give what is reasonable, what is comfortable. Okay, for those as a family want to give more than that, like the Prophet did, like some of his family did. Okay, they would give, even because they were all united on that. All right, but it shouldn't be that, for example, you as the leader of a family would be, you want to do this, you give away a lot of your wealth, but your family, no, they don't want to be, they don't want to be forced into that position where they favor others over themselves, and then they'll blame you. Why are you favoring others over us, right? So it's something that, if as a family, it can be done where you give more to others than even give what you need yourself. Okay, but that should be done together. But anyway, that's the point. The point is that what I was going to say before is that just as you are doing salah regularly, you should, if it's within your means, be given zakat regularly. As you do salah, you give zakat. Okay, they go together. That's why they're mentioned together in the Quran. And that's why many surahs in the Quran, when they mention salah, they will mention giving as well, even if they don't mention it in terms of zakat. Okay, so like the surah in Surah Al-Ma'arij, which I've mentioned often, which talks about the musallin, illa al-musallin, الذين هم على صلاتهم دائمون. Then it says, والذين في أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم, and those in whose wealth there is a known right for the one who asks and the one who can't ask. Okay, so zakat is not mentioned there, but right with salah is always mentioned giving. Okay, it's mentioned together with that. All right, okay, so that's basically it. A very brief presentation, and I hope it was beneficial, because it is a simple thing. It is a simple thing to look into, and it's just so obvious that the zakat is 2.5%, which comes up at the end of the Prophet's life, at the end of the Prophet's mission. It can't be what's being mentioned throughout the Quran from the beginning. Okay, it isn't that zakat. And the Shia have this right. Okay, the Shia have this right. They have it sort of flipped. Yeah, the way we have it. We in the Sunni world, we call sadaqah just voluntary charity. All right, and we call the zakat the obligatory charity, which has to be given once a year, etc. Whereas the Shia have it the right way around. They do call the sadaqat, okay, as that's obligatory charity, which is taken by the state for those people, for that group of people that where is it, the verse? For those mentioned in this verse, they are people that need to be looked after. And they say, the Shia, like I said, they have it right, and they say that the zakat is basically the like voluntary charity that you give, okay, and you're supposed to give it in that high way that's mentioned in Surah Al-Layl. Okay, all right. Let me. I'll leave this as the last slide and have a look at some of the chats if there's anything there. There's nobody backstage, so if nobody comes on, then we'll end it in around a few minutes. If you have taqwa, you give zakah. Um, 2.5% was during war. Yeah, I don't know if it was during war or not. But the point is that, like I said, it's to look after those people, right? And if 2.5% will cover it, it will cover it. If 1% will cover it, 1%. If 5% has to, is needed to cover it, then 5%. Whatever is needed to look after that group at a specific time, that's what has to be taken. That's why it's not mentioned. Okay, it's not mentioned. The sadaqat is 2.5%, and it is for these. Okay, what if 2.5 isn't enough? 2.5% isn't enough for all of them. No, the sadaqat are for those people. So it's mentioned as being for those people. So it's however much is needed for them. However much is needed for them. I understand that zakat is something which provides us because zakat is given only for the sake of Allah, and it's something that is given willingly and not show off. Exactly, yes. But everybody who's tried, anybody who's tried to give regular charity will see how it changes them. We'll see how it does purify you from this attachment to wealth and stuff like that, right? And when you stop, because you always in this world you're always going to be chasing after wealth. You have to, you need just for survival, for your family, whatever. You're always going to be chasing up. It's going to be something which is in your mind, okay? And you will see that when you stop giving charity, the attachment comes back. Okay, the attachment comes back. In the same way with salah. Okay, salah helps to keep you in dhikr of God, and when you stop, you start to go into ghafla. Okay, these two counter hadiths in the Quran, right? Dhikr and ghafla, right? Remembrance and forgetfulness. Okay, in the same way with zakat, the more if you give it, when you're giving it regularly, you'll see how the purifying effect it has. And if you stop, because you're going to be running after things of wealth often, okay, you'll see you start to become more and more attached to those as you stop, the longer you move away from not giving. All right, okay, I've got Sam in the background. I'll bring you on in a minute. I don't think there's anything else. Let me just check the chat at the bottom. This one, the day when the two hosts met in battle and God has the power to do what he will. Is that when you're saying the zakat was 2.5%? I don't know. All right, okay. Let me bring on Sam. Assalamu alaikum, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
Yeah,
Everything
good.
okay?
Yeah, I just want to say about zakat is I think it's kind of trying to emulate what God does. God gives, to His creation, without expecting anything in return, and He's helping the needy and the people in need. And zakat is kind of, trying to, make. He's trying to make us. God is trying to make us do what He does, and hence not give someone
Well,
we're not.
we're supposed to be khulafa, right? A khalifa, the one that you leave behind to represent you, should sort of like try to act as you do, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Interesting thing I was thinking when you said that. I don't know how many people have heard of the stories of Nasruddin Hoja. Nasruddin Hoja. Have you heard of that before? This guy?
No.
Well, basically, he's one of those. You have like nice stories from every culture which have wisdom and stuff like this, and usually they get attached to one person, okay, and that person ends up having a lot of like stories about them. This guy is one of them. He was a real person. He probably was a very wise, sort of like funny, jokey kind of saintly person, okay. But I think a lot of stories, of course, are not that have become attached to him are not as true. Maybe some were invented later because now he's become like a character. But anyway, there's this one excellent story about him. Okay, and he was like in the stories he's even viewed as a very wise, the sheikh, the mullah of the area. And this is Turkey. We're talking about around Turkish area, Turkic culture. He was even viewed as that kind of person, or this sort of like the town fool and the town clown, that kind of thing. So anyway, this one time he's walking down the road and these four boys come up to him and they have a bag of walnuts, and they say, Hoja, we have these walnuts and we want them to, or we want to distribute them between us, but we can't decide how to do it. So will you do it for us? So he says, no problem, and he grabs the bag of the walnuts, right, and he asks the four boys, how do you want me to distribute it? Do you want me to do the distribution of Allah or the distribution of people? The qismat of Allah or the qismat of bashar, of human beings, how they would do it. So the four boys, of course, say, no, we want the qismat of Allah, right? We don't want the qismat of people. We don't want how people distribute things. Distribute it how God would distribute it. So he says, fine. So then he puts his hand into the bag and grabs two big handfuls and gives it to one boy. He takes one handful and gives it to another boy, the second boy. The last few he gives to the third boy, and to the last boy, the fourth boy, he gives nothing, and then he walks away. And of course, the boys are looking at each other perplexed. What is this? So they run after him. Say, Nasruddin Hoja, what kind of distribution is this? What are you doing? And he said to them, well, this is the distribution of Allah, right? Allah gives to some, Allah gives a lot. To some, Allah gives, what's adequate. To other people, He gives only a little, and to some people, He gives none. If you had asked me for the distribution of people, I would have given you all the same.
Yeah.
So I always find that such a classic story of his, and there's so many other ones that he has. If you look up online, just stories of Nasruddin Hoja, you get so many, and then they're nice sort of stories to tell to kids. And if any of you have like young children, they really like these kind of witty stories.
Yeah.
Mm.
Also, the sort of thought about, you know, when you give something in charity, I'm thinking if you don't feel a sacrifice, then it's not as counted as much as it is a sacrifice. For example, a billionaire gives, I don't know, 100,000 to charity. It's not as much as someone who's getting what, £500 a week, and he gives what, £250 a week in £250 in charity. So I think when you sort of giving something in the name of God, I think it's kind of better if you feel a sacrifice. If you don't feel a sacrifice, then it's like, in my opinion, it's not as meaningful. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose so, but okay, then that discounts the people who are truly generous in their soul. The people who have really achieved generosity, right? They don't look at it as a big sacrifice. And then the people who are not attached to the wealth, they don't feel it as a big sacrifice. So does that mean that their charity is worthless? I don't think so. I think it just comes down to look, because what you're talking about there is sort of the sort of like accounting kind of idea, right? That how much is this worth? How much weight does it have? It's sort of like the counting of deeds, that kind of thing. No, the giving is meant to be a source of purification, right? الذي يؤتي ماله يتزكى, right? To give your wealth to become more purified. So a person who is very defiled, okay, is very defiled, and he finds it so difficult just to give £1 in charity, right? That's like a huge sacrifice for him. Even if he has plenty of money, he would spend that £1 very quickly somewhere for, like, I don't know, for a muffin or something that he just likes the smell of. The person who's like that, yes, he's now doing like he's fighting himself. He's trying to purify himself, right? But that's not going to be the same as somebody who's already got to that stage, okay? And he's given. So maybe, yes, you could say that the one who's giving, well, it's very difficult, that's more weighty, okay, because he's straining. But the other person has already gotten to where he should be, right? He's got, because what God is going to be looking at is the hearts, right? Right? So the quality which is in the heart, that weighs a lot. That's more weighty than actual deed as much. That's very.
Aren't the wealthy more accountable for their wealth because God given that wealth, and then He expects them to be. So in the same way, if a person says, I found it hard to give, he's a millionaire, he found it hard to give what, £100.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Well, that's a ridiculous answer.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, that's even worse. And in fact, the Quran is very harsh against Kanz al-Amwal, what's it called? Sort of like hoarding wealth, not spending it, just like putting it somewhere and just keeping it there and not doing anything with it, right? The Quran is very harsh against that. It's actually haram. It's haram to just, if you're putting wealth on the side, saving it to do something that there are some things you can't do without, first of all, saving a good amount of money. If you're going to buy a house, okay, of course you have to hoard the wealth because you want to buy the home with it. So that's not what's being meant. What's being meant is just the people who just hoard the wealth, not allowing it to flow, okay, in society. Just trying to increase the bank accounts more and more. The numbers, right? I want this. What number in my bank account do I want to get to? And that's haram in the Quran. The Quran mentioned that those who do that will have that wealth will be heated in the fire, and their sides will be burnt with it, right? Of course, it's metaphorical. God is not going to resurrect the wealth, the gold and stuff that's going to be thing, or the paper dollars, right? They're just going to burn. There's going to be nothing to brand your side with, right?
Yeah, I think what's interesting, this applies to the believers. It's like as Muslim people think, yeah, oh, one day I'll get forgiven and whatever, I'll make it to heaven. But it warns the believers many times in the Quran here that be careful. So I feel that the Muslim nowadays get a wrong impression that they're sort of taught that it don't matter, as long as you believe, no matter what sins they've done, it's going to get forgiven and eventually make it to heaven. But I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think it's people can be, kind of surprised that, even though they're Muslim, as a Muslim, going to end up help just as Christians and Jews, and some Jews and Christians and Muslims will make it to heaven as well. But it's not like black and white that if you believe, that's it, you made it.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the case. That's definitely not the case. Yeah. It has nothing to do with your beliefs. Okay, what you believe or don't believe, that isn't what's going to take you to Jannah or keep you from the hellfire. Just believing in God. God doesn't need you to believe in Him, right? And that's not why we're here. Okay, that's not why we're here. We're here to be seen, to be tested. Ayyukum ahsanu amala, who will be, which of you is the best in deeds, right? Fastabiqul khairat, right? So vie with each other in goodness. When talking about all of the different shari'ahs and minhajs and different religions there are, right? God says at the end of that, commenting on that, if He had wanted, He could have made you all one people, but to try you in what He has given you of the various shari'ahs or ways or books or scriptures. And it says fastabiqul khairat, right? So race to goodness, race each other to goodness. Ilallahi marji'akum, to God is your return, and He will tell you about that in which you differed. But no, of course, there's many verses in the Quran which show that the quote unquote believers, the mu'minun, would not necessarily go to Jannah.
Well, I find it annoying that the Sunni Muslims, maybe the Shias, they make out that you have to believe in the Quran, and that's it. If you don't believe in the Quran, that's it. You're going to into hell. But the Quran even clearly says, look, some amongst the Jews, they believe as God, as they should believe, and they somehow ignore verses like that, and I find it kind of creates more separatism instead of all three religions coming together, and doing good, and let God judge on the day of judgment, who was on the right path. Instead, they want to just condemn each other. Same with the Christians do it, the Jews do it, and the Muslims do it as well.
Yeah, I mean the Muslims and the Jews and the Christians they even do it to each other, right? Each sect within there will do it to the other. So it's no surprise. I mean, what are we going to do? Can you do about it? You try to, just try to, with those who you meet, you just try to make them see more sense, I suppose. If these sort of conversations come up, and that's all you can do. I mean, I still need to actually get back onto this, the whole the Quran Reflect app, which I mentioned a while ago on this channel, and I made that reflection on it, and it was taken down, and I posted about it on Reddit. I posted the text of what I actually I put up there. Of course, it was taken down, and it was basically along those lines. It was just basically a reflection on that one verse. تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. This is the abode of the next life. We will make it for who? For the Muslims? No. For the Jews? No. For the Christians? No. For who? للذين لا يريدون علوا, to those who do not want elevation or haughtiness, arrogance, elevation on the earth, nor corruption. They don't want this, they don't want that. Okay, really and truly, they don't want these sort of things. Just that's all you need to win the next world, right? And there are many verses which talk about. I mean, I've posted about this so many times on Reddit. Sometimes I wonder if I should keep just reposting these things and talking about them again and again, because you always get an influx of people who have never heard of such an idea or who find it incredulous, and so they would need convincing and stuff. But these are even things which you don't need. You shouldn't need a religion even to convince you of it. I mean, that's why in every religion, you have the people of that religion, the sort of the young, the innocent who are starting to learn of their religion. So you've got the Christians, a Christian who is just a young Christian who's just becoming more religious, trying to learn about his religion, they'll ask their priest, why can't all good people go to heaven, right? And the same thing with us, right? You have some people who will ask the sheikh, right? Somebody who's learning will say, okay, but why can't everybody who's good, even if they're not a Muslim, why can't they go to heaven? Same thing will be asked in Judaism, and every religion will be asked, because that's what the normal, natural thing which everybody knows is true. Okay, everybody knows that has to be. If there is a God, okay, then yes, all good people will go to heaven. If there is a God, there is a heaven, then yes, all good people will go to heaven, irrespective of the religion. And people ask that question; it keeps on coming up again and again because it's the fitrah of the human being, which is seeing the falsehood of what the religion is teaching. Okay, so then of course they keep asking, and then either they are convinced or they are they learn not to ask and sort of like sweep it up until they've indoctrinated themselves about that. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I was thinking why the people believe the way they believe, and to me it's just because the way they're taught, they're indoctrinated from the beginning. Instead of being taught the book and accepting whatever's in it and then going out investing themselves, they're like taught extra stuff like maybe the Trinity or only Muslims are going to go to heaven and this, and from an early age it gets kind of embedded in them, these false doctrines. And then when they get older, they sort of like get kind of comfortable in that community. And if they say say something that's not what the community follows, they kind of like they're probably made out to be, you're not believing anymore, and they're scared into believing what the community believes instead of having the courage here. So okay, hang on, this is what, instead of first read the book here by itself without the influence and trying to understand themselves. So many believers, Muslim, Christian, Jews, they don't read the book themselves and understand themselves. They feel like they need a scholar or someone more senior to explain things to them. But in my opinion, it's like God doesn't teach you. You just got to read the book here, and over time, God will teach you. And they don't seem to have that kind of faith.
I understand. I'm thinking nowadays, I'm thinking that what people need to be taught even before they're taught, like you were saying here, okay, read the book first and see what it says, and then go off. I think people need to be taught even before. They should be taught even what's more important than the book in this way, right? They should be taught that they should be taught to be fiercely committed to justice and to truth and to compassion, even that above the book. Okay, and now because the thing about it, you can convince somebody, okay, of what you just said, convince them to take the Quran seriously, okay, and you'll convince them of that. Maybe let's say they are convinced, okay, but then they'll go somewhere else, and somebody will convince them with the book of some of the worst things, right? They will use the different verses and this and that to convince them of something else, right? Which is clearly would be against the book, right? But if you can ground people in their humanity, which is in the end, the Quran is supposed to be a dhikr, a reminder of what? A reminder of your humanity. We've sent down a book in which is your remembrance. It reminds about what you are. From Adam down to onwards. Okay, the story of the human being and what you are and what what is morally right, what is wrong. I mean, this is that. But so sometimes I think no, it's more important these days. Because people move around from place to place, and they hear the speaker, that place. Much more important to get them to have courage, real courage in the pursuit of truth and complete sincerity in that, right? Complete sincerity in the truth, to be able to even say things, okay, even to be able to say there are things in the Quran which they think are wrong, if they should be able to say that. Okay, and make them and not feel any regret about saying that if that's how they truly see it. Okay, the problem is, of course, now you're going to have people that will They will use that and say, okay, then that's it. You're not Muslim anymore. And they will try to use that to push you. No, you don't have to. That's what I'm saying. It needs a lot of people need to be given a lot more courage in themselves, a lot more confidence that they can work it out. Okay, and patience. Right? People need a lot more patience nowadays. We're in this TikTok generation where people just are like 1 minute, 2 minute attention spans and stuff. So that needs to be. I think I'm starting to see that more and more. That needs to be embedded in people more and more. Even before they come to the Quran, right? I mean, these are things people now. If you think about it, they have ideas about God being evil or a tyrant or unjust and stuff. Which even the Meccans to whom the Prophet was sent, they never had these. They never had these kind of ideas, right? So you take somebody who's thinking like that, and they go to the Quran, and they will see something completely wrong. So I think the first thing is that people need to be made to encouraged to have that kind of determination and that kind of dedication to what is to just the absolute to the values of truth and justice and compassion and mercy, to these things. Okay, above and beyond the Quran or or the prophets or any of that. Okay, I think that's even more important. Get people to become grounded in that first, and then through that they can look at the Quran much easier. I think maybe. Just
That's
some
what I try
ideas.
and teach my kids. Go for the truth. Yeah, I know religion doesn't make sense and sometimes and whatever, but go for the truth. It's not because the truth may not all be something you like, but in the end, if God exists, you've got to determine which book you want to follow, which book is authentic, so investigate what the truth is. Don't be worried, because even some of the prophets like Abraham, they went to investigate which is my true God. Even when the prophet got revelation, he didn't know straight away, oh, this is revelation from God. I recognize God. Even Moses, when he saw the burning bush, he didn't recognize God. So it takes time, for even the prophets to sort of kind of understand God and know Him. So go for the truth, like I said.
Yeah, definitely. All right, nice.
And I saw some of your videos with Aaron Ra, and I think Aaron Ra is just is so lost. He's kind of become a kind of rebel. He just wants to go against religion because he's got this twisted, warped understanding of the Quran, and he's
I mean,
all about
it's not surprising because he, when he first reached out, like I mentioned this, when he first started reading the Quran, he reached out to wanting people to Muslims especially, to come on and to help him sort of like make sense of it. But nobody would. Right? They all put these conditions. No, you have to show reverence to the Quran, otherwise we're not going to. And so, of course, what happened is that he was surrounded by ex-Muslims who not very knowledgeable, really, to be honest. In fact, they some really crazy blunders that they would say. And so, of course, that's what they're showing him. They're showing him just a completely warped view. Sometimes really bizarre. I mean, I think we were talking about what was it, Surah Al-Fath the other time. We talked a little bit about that. And he he should know better, to be honest, because they were saying what? He was talking about how this treaty, so Muhammad made this treaty, so then later on he could have an excuse to invade Mecca. I'm like, Aaron, come on, man. He didn't need to make a treaty in order to have an excuse to invade Mecca. They were already at war. He could have just invaded. But that's what's happening now. There are people that are given completely inverted image, an inverted image of the Prophet's life or the Quran, completely inverted. Like even I had to some of those ex-Muslims on the panel were trying to tell me that no, the Muslims in Mecca were not persecuted, that they weren't persecuted, they left on their own and stuff like this. And I mean, come on. I mean, really.
They pick and choose.
Even when discussing Surah Al-Fath and the treaty, while they were making the treaty, one of the Muslims who had been tortured was being tortured in Mecca, managed to escape to the camp, and they had already signed the treaty, and the Prophet had to tell him, "Sorry, we can't take you with us." And you tell me they weren't being persecuted, or they have this other thing, this other thing which I've heard about Khadija, right? So because of course the Prophet was only married to Khadija for the first for like most of the Mecca period, right? And he married many women later, right? And so that has been twisted now to being said that the reason why he didn't have many wives at the start is because Khadija was basically controlling him. She was too powerful for him, so he was basically like a like a man who's very weak compared to his his woman, to his wife, and that she basically refused to allow him. Okay, and then once she died, he was free. Now I can marry as many women as I want. Blah blah blah. All this, such ridiculous. It's flipping of the whole thing. It's like, I mean, come on, man. Don't you see? I mean, he spent most of his. He was married to all of these women. Okay, yes, he was married to all of these women. All of them were jealous of Khadija. All of them were jealous of Khadija. The way he would talk about Khadija years into the time in Medina, all his wives would be jealous. Aisha would pull her at her hair and say it's as if there has never been any other woman in the world but Khadija, right? So they tried to break this idea that this was a true loving marriage that the Prophet had with Khadija, a real blessed marriage right there. And they want to corrupt it and say no, it was a power dynamic where she was much more powerful than him and controlling him and made him do what she wanted and all. Absolutely ridiculous. No. And then of course the Prophet, even though he had all of his wives, I mean, what did he spend his nights doing? Right? Most of his nights were spent in prayer. Most of his days were hungry, right? He was fasting. He would tie rocks around his belly, okay, because he would give his food to those who would pile up, the poor who would pile up in the mosque, okay, and his wives had to follow him in that, right? And eventually when they started to like want more of the things of this world, he said, look, this is how you want to be with me. This is how you have to be. Okay, and they would say, the 2 months would go in the houses of the Prophet, 2 months in a row without a fire being lit to cook anything. They would ask, okay, how did you survive? Well, aswadan, with water and dates. We'd eat water and dates. That's how the family, the wives of the Prophet and the Prophet lived. Okay, because they were of the muhsinat, and the Quran was revealed, right? When they started to ask for more things of the dunya, the Quran was revealed. Look, I will divorce you all, right? If you want things of this dunya, get away from me. Get away from me, right? If you want the things of this dunya and zinataha, come, I will divorce you basically and give you gifts and then go. But if you want Allah and His Messenger and the next life, then God has prepared for the muhsinat among you a great reward. The muhsin, again, this word muhsin, right? Which, the easiest way to be a muhsin is to be a person who gives charity, right? Give a lot of charity, and they were the mothers of the believers, right? They were supposed to be like centers for charity in the community and teaching and of the wisdom which the Prophet gave to them, etc. So it's not surprising that Aaron has this warped view. I mean, it's a result of what he's surrounded with. And also a result of his long campaigning against atheism. So he's an atheist, not against atheism, sorry, for atheism. So he's an atheist activist, right? So that plays into it as well, which means that when somebody like that approaches a book, they've already got their fists up for a fight, right? So he comes in to read the Quran, his fists already up for a battle, right? To try and argue against. So that's already a closed position.
I think his heart's not right, and this is why I think he's an example of the sort of person that God's never going to guide, because inside his heart's not right, and all he thinks is negative, and he's got some sort of agenda. And the way I say it, if he was like an honest, agnostic person, I think, and he was really curious about God, I think God would guide him. But he's sort of person, he's built up kind of enmity. He thinks he's more morally right and everything.
I don't see that, to be honest. And when you say God would guide him, what do you mean? Like guide him to become a Muslim?
Yeah.
That isn't that. There are many who are Muslims. They're not guided.
Yeah, I mean, you see, even among the Muslims, just because you believe does not mean you'll be guided. But in terms
what I'm saying, when we think about somebody being guided, okay, this is one of the issues of. I mean, they even say this in sectarianism, right? There's this book called Thumma Ihtadayt, and then I was guided, about this Sunni guy who became a Shia, right? Oh, so he was guided only when he became a Shia. That's the guidance for him, right? Becoming a Shia, becoming a guide, that's guidance. Becoming a Muslim, that's being guided. Becoming a Christian, joining these clubs, that's guidance. No, that's not guidance. That's not guidance. So the yardstick for somebody being guided is you look at the things which the guidance is pushing you towards, right? The things which the guidance is pushing you towards.
No, when I mean guidance, I mean become a nicer person, start doing, believing in God, and doing good deeds. And that's sort of guidance, not just getting the label of Muslim now.
As far as I know, he does engage in charity work, and from what I see, is he is very much, this is not saying that what he's saying is true, but he's definitely always trying to say what he thinks is true. Okay, I don't think that I've never seen him be duplicitous, and you get to have a feel for somebody who's been duplicitous. But the longer you spend,
on the panel, all the good verses in the Quran and the Bible, and even some of the good he ignores all that. And alongside the panel, all this we're obsessed over is the negative,
you don't see it,
kind of, sort of verses and sort of hadith, whatever. So it just showed, he's not been positive. All he's looking here is, look at all this, these verses, which you take that context anyway. He's sort of like looking for the bad stuff.
That's true. I think it's his eyes opened for the bad stuff a lot more. His eyes open for the bad stuff a lot more, but not. I don't think it's because literally you can't see what the good stuff is, because again, blinders, right? Somebody can have blinders because of certain things. But anyway, look, I've already proposed to him that we would sit and talk on an actual short sort of just me and him. We'll see if that comes through or not. I don't know. But the reason why I wanted to be in that show was just because what they were doing. What are they doing there? They're doing a reading through the Quran, and I said I tried to be. I haven't tried to be, but I saw one time there was this other channel called the Cross and the Crescent. They were doing something similar, but they were just doing it in a really. I mean, they were just just look at that and look at the difference. It's a world of difference. What they were doing is just basically reading the Quran just to mock and make fun and this and that. I mean, he is actually trying to do something which he said, I've actually read the Quran now, and he's trying to get help from whom he can. Well, at least that's how it started. Now I think it's just because it became that way. So even if he sees that that the panel he has made, if it's not that, even if he saw that it's not that helpful, it's become part of the show that you would carry on with it, and I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that.
But they're not honest. They're not. How come they don't cite any of the good verses?
They're not at all. Yeah. Well, of course.
Why don't they do that? They're not being objective and honest. That's what.
But they're not exactly trying to show the good stuff. They're trying to basically look at the Quran from their perspective. They're especially the ex-Muslims are giving it from their perspective, right? So they're not. They're not going to show.
They're not honest inside themselves. They say they make out, we're looking for the truth and whatever, and we're going to accept it, whatever. But they don't say. I think
it's just it's a normal thing when somebody has made a major conclusion on something. Okay, they will continue looking at something in that kind of way. I mean, Muslims do it the same thing, right? Now Muslims who will look at they see the Quran and they've made the conclusion about it, that they believe in it. Okay, and then when certain things come up which they can't explain or read properly or something like that, they will still they themselves will not be honest with it and say, no, this is something which doesn't make sense, or this is something which seems wrong. Instead, they will look for the excuses, they will look for the apologetics, they will look for this and the other, right? So it's something which it's part of it. Look, I mean, I'm not, like I said, I don't want to end up speaking about other people's internal, what they think or not, or how they, if they're being honest or not being honest. I can just say that I haven't sensed much, any kind of much dishonesty or anything like that. I do sense, of course, a very acute sort of like sense that they're right, sense that this is right, and not willing to listen to excuses, right? That kind of thing. But I don't mind. I'm going on, like I said, just to give that other perspective, and I'd be happy to be there just to give that.
Then if they don't believe in a God, then the Quran and the Bible, whatever, it's not going to make sense to them, because there's something in there, it depends on faith, evil happens, and God can, lets that evil happen or makes that evil happen. Everything good and bad, in our life comes from God. So if they don't accept God does this, they want a God which is just good, it's not going to make sense to them. So I don't see what is the point of explaining the Quran when they don't even believe in the idea of a God.
No, but you can still postulate, if God existed, then this or that or the other. Okay, so it's not sort of insurmountable thing when you're trying to read a scripture. Okay, you can read a scripture and then think, okay, then does this make sense if God existed, or not? Or doesn't make sense? Would God be doing this or not doing this? Right? So it's not an insurmountable issue, I think. And besides, I mean, what are you going to say to somebody, nobody who believes in God, and everybody who doesn't believe in God, there's no point in you reading the Quran? No, of course, then there is. Okay, it's just it needs to be done with a bit more intelligence. Sometimes it does need a bit of more perseverance, a sort of like, if you take something wrong from the beginning, sometimes and you follow through with that, it just doesn't help. One of the first things I wanted to point out to them is that, because they're all atheists, so they're always arguing, sort of like speaking about the Quran as if it should be convincing atheists about God. But the Quran is not doing that. It's not. It doesn't even consider atheists. Atheists aren't in the picture. Okay, Aaron got that. Most of the panel got that. I think one person didn't, but he understood. Yes, no, it makes sense. It made sense to him, right? And it's something which he should have understood by himself from the beginning, I suppose, right? In the 7th century Arabia, and for most of human history, there have been no atheists. The Quran is not speaking about atheists. الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those who have kafaru in the Quran, are all believers in God. They're all believers in God. And also the problem, of course, is translations. Okay, translations do make it difficult for somebody. When you have the very first verse that he comes across, which he still remembers, right? Truly, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَنذَرْتُمْ أَمْ لَمْ تُنذِرْهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. Truly, those who have kafaru, the disbelievers. Truly, the disbelievers. It doesn't matter if you call to them or you don't call them, they will not believe. God has sealed their eyes and their hearts, and it puts a covering over them. Okay, so they will never see. So he says, okay, that's how the Quran starts, right? To him, that looks, and the way that the verse is translated. Okay, you think, okay, then this makes no sense. What's the point of the rest of the book, right? If you're saying that a disbeliever, is being made to be a disbeliever by God, he's choosing who's going to become a believer or not. I mean, we've discussed this a couple of times on this stream, right? And this idea of Jabr, that God chooses who, that He chooses who is guided and who isn't, right? It's something which Muslims have, right? Muslims believe this. They believe that God is the one who's choosing who's going to be guided or not guided, and it's sort of like this, and nobody knows, guidance comes as this mysterious thing, okay, where somebody just suddenly is guided. Nobody could have expected it, right? And it's just like this sort of like divine lottery, random lottery that can just come down to somebody. Oh, boom, you're guided. Okay, oh, boom, you're guided. Oh, now you, and it's just completely random. That's how some Muslims believe it, see it, right? That it's not your choice whether you become guided or not, right? And that comes into the translation. I mean, just that, like I said, just that beginning of the translation. إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. It's talking to the Prophet. It's talking about الذين كفروا, who up to that point, the الذين كفروا up to that point. So this is when the surah is when the Prophet went to Medina. That's when Surah Al-Baqarah had started. الذين كفروا mentioned here are Quraysh, right? And and it said هم لا يؤمنون. It doesn't say لا يسلمون, right? It says they will not have iman. Okay, but they did eventually, the people of Mecca, those who were left there, they did eventually they gained Islam, right? Though many of them were still, had no Iman, they didn't have Iman, right? They were Muslim, even when later on the Prophet conquered Mecca and they all became Muslim. Most of them did not have Iman. Because of course the Prophet had been with them for how long? Preaching to them, they had come to the point where it was obvious that they will not have faith, okay? And a lot of it had to do just because it was him, okay? إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا سَوَاءٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَأَنذَرْتَهُم, you, Muhammad, if you warn them or if you don't warn them, they will not have faith. Why? Because the tribalism that was between Quraysh, especially the leaders of Quraysh at the time were the Banu Makhzum and the Banu Umayyah, and they said openly many times, said we're not going to believe, we're not going to follow him. Somebody from Banu Hashim, right? Somebody from the Hashim. It's the same issue of Iblis, right? I'm not going to bow to him. It's this kind of racism, right? I'm not going to bow to him. If he had been told to bow to an angel, he would have. And some of those of Banu Umayyah or Banu Makhzum, if the Prophet had been from one of them, they would have followed, right? But because he was from Banu Hashim, no. That rivalry that they had of Banu Hashim prevented them. Anyway, so it can be shown very, very simply. But the other issue is, of course, just not seeing how to read the Quran, just reading it quickly without thinking and just not giving it much thought. But anyway, look, none of that matters as much to me, to be honest. I would just be involved in it just to be involved in it.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like, I base my sort of belief based on science. I know you said the Quran doesn't have any sort of scientific, it doesn't point to any scientific evidence of God, but I think it does. And it's just you got some of the verses you got like thinking more about. Let's say, for example, the creation of life. It's a divine. It's a divine force that creates life, and you can prove that using science. The fact is, human beings can't create life, and they never are going to create life. It's another force they needed to create life. So you can get all the scientists nowadays. They can make DNA from scratch, from non-life, and they can make. I think maybe they can get maybe cell walls or something. Make that. They can sort of control the molecule to make a cell, but the cell never comes alive. And they're doing repeat experiments, and they can't do it at the moment. They're still doing the research, and that for me is clear evidence. Look, even though human beings can control the molecules, they can't create life.
Well, I mean, where are you basing this idea that they can't? First of all, that life is just, I don't know. You're sort of saying like it's from a divine intervention, right?
Yeah, all life it needs a force of God. Otherwise, that force is not there. You can have the molecule exactly the same as another cell, but it's not going to come to life.
Okay, but I mean, you're saying that this is like are you basing it on the Quran from somewhere?
Well, the
Where
Quran
is that
says,
from?
yeah, only God can create life, does it not?
No, not really. I mean,
I think there's a verse that says, call your partners, yeah, or whatever, and they can't even create a fly or something.
yeah, لم يخلقوا ذبابة ولو
Yeah.
اجتمعوا له. Yeah, even if they gather to it. Okay.
Yeah, and show, what have their partners created, like what God has created.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
for me, that says, look,
I
life,
I haven't thought of that, to be honest, myself. I'd have to look at those verses about the whole thing. But I mean, let's say for argument's sake, that that is not how the verses play out. And let's say that ultimately people do get to create some sort of life. Well, what would then happen? You'd say that now the guidance in the Quran is false.
well, maybe the book is false. Maybe the book has got error in it, or so we still got to explain how the human beings come from. Well, I said, if they can create life, yeah, then that shows, that how advanced they become, and we can start manipulating life and doing as we please with creation, and I don't know what that will lead to, but in my opinion, God has taken that power away from us. It's never going to happen. And it's going to be one of these things. Yeah, the atheists will keep on saying, "Oh, we haven't got the technology yet, whatever." Yeah, and once we get more knowledge, we'll be able to create life. But they never are. And the same way, they're never going to stop death. Human beings, all animals, yeah, well, at least human beings, they're all going to die. And so
Well,
far, yeah,
even if you stop aging, eventually people will die. Even if you say, okay, however many millions years the sun explodes or something, or just from an accident, or even if you stop aging and you stop diseases and stuff like
it's
that,
never going to happen. That's what I think. It's
murder or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, I'm not sure. I mean, but I'm just saying that what would happen definitely. Let's say that people do end up creating a fly. Okay, let's say that happens, a fruit fly or something. What would happen is just in the end, people would look at that verse and say, okay, they'd say this is talking about the people in the Prophet's time, right? I would say it's talking about the people in the Prophet's time. They can't do it, right? I think the verse goes, what does the verse goes? يا أيها الناس ضرب لكم مثل فاستمعوا له. It goes, O mankind, a similitude has been shown to you, so listen to it. Those whom you call upon other than God, okay, cannot create a fly, and even if they come together for it, right? And if they, so take that verse as it is, first of all. So if you take the traditional view, of course, those whom they call upon other than God, who are they? They are the statues, okay, the statues, the idols and stuff like that, okay. So that somebody could then say, okay, the verse is talking about that. So of course, that will never happen. Hubal will never create a fly, nor Lat or Al-Uzza, or if all of the idols that were in Mecca together, they got together, they wouldn't be able to create a fly, right? So somebody could look at the verse like that, right? Say that what is mentioned here is, of course, just inanimate objects, okay. And if you take it, that الذين يدعون من دون الله, those whom they call upon other than God, are the elders, the leaders, the people, okay. Then again, you could say it's just those people at that time. They can't do it, okay. That the people, those who are objects of shirk, will never be able to do it, all right. But maybe the mu'minun will, okay. Maybe in the future, the Muslim world will be at the height of science and technology again, as it was before, and we'll be the ones who are making the most of the innovations, and then we would be able to create a fly or something. Okay, that would not be a verse.
it's never going to happen.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Okay, so
But I'm saying there's also a verse that says it's God who originates life and repeats it. So I guess for me, there's another indicator that only God can create life.
yeah, but again, look, I mean, these all of these verses, you can read them in a way which is not it's not as that specific. I mean, it doesn't actually just say only God creates life. Okay, that's what I was mentioning when I talk about the scientific issues and these kind of things. I'm saying that they're not that these things are mentioned in a way which is meant to inspire awe, to make you look towards God, to push you towards God. They're not meant to be, scientific truthisms and stuff like that. They're not meant to be in that kind of way. So that's how I look at them. I mean, I don't see anything which is, like I said, the only thing which I saw which was specific enough, okay, in terms of science, to be a scientific error was that, backbones in the rib. Well, and I talked about that. I think it was it the stream last stream we talked about that, right? And I showed that how I've come to see that it's not a scientific error because it's a euphemism of sex between a man and a woman. That's how I see it now. But before, for a long time, I would just look at that as a scientific error, and I honestly never thought I'd ever see how it could be resolved. I didn't mind saying that and keeping that. Okay, yeah, that's how it is.
But didn't the Quran say, look around the world, look at the creation, and see, observe
Yeah,
that?
exactly. So it says, for example, travel through the earth and see how God originated the creation. That means we can see it. We can look at it. We can investigate it. Okay, and that means we'll be able to. It can mean that means we'll be able to find the origins of life, how it all started. Right. That's something we can see. When again, because the way these things are spoken about, for example, when God speaks about Adam, right? He says that the example of Isa, the example of Isa is like the example of Adam, right? He created him from dust and set him be, and he was. Okay. Now, Jesus, alayhi salam, he was still, his mother was still pregnant with him, carried him for 9 months, gave him birth. All of that is still part of that. That's the similitude which has been shown towards Adam, right? So if Isa, okay, he didn't have a father, right? But in the end, in all other respects, it was a natural birth, right? And now that's been made a similitude with Adam alayhi salam. Yet we think that he created him from dust and set him be, and he was, okay. That Jesus wasn't like that. But in our mentality, we think Adam was that, it was like sort of like a magic thing, right? Be and he was, just that's it. He was made. But if we take it from what we know, that Isa alayhi salam his mother was pregnant with him, okay, gave birth to him, and still that is called, it's called that be. He was created from dust, and God said to him, be, and he was. That's still that. That's still that. Okay. So how Adam came about. Can be it doesn't have to be this we don't have to have this idea that it was just like this magic that happened.
Yeah, for me, the reason I think that's there is because it's trying to show that all of human population right now, is all descended from Adam. Only Jesus did not descend from Adam. Jesus is like a unique creation. He's created a man, but he's not descended from Adam.
Yeah, but I mean, how did he come physically to be in the world? He came physically, being born,
Yeah, physical, but I'm saying in the term that he was created, it was human beings. Yeah, it's like you got the X and Y chromosome, whatever, and Jesus was not like that. So he's trying to show the difference between Jesus is the only human being that is not descended from Adam. Every other human being is descended from Adam.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's not the same issue. This can also be looked at it this way. You can also see that yes, he's mentioned that Isa was created from dust. It was a process. How Isa came about was a process, and he's saying that the example of Isa is like Adam. So that's also a process, in stages, right? He was created in stages. So maybe Adam also was created in stages. Maybe he was also born from a mother, right? So it's if
But
we
the
take
Quran
that.
clearly says, it was made from clay, wasn't it?
Yeah,
From mud.
well, I mean, we're all in that sense. Yeah, we are all from clay, right? So it's talking about that the human being is being made from what is essentially clear. We are actually. I mean, I remember in university, they would bring like this tray in the first like years of biology study and stuff. You'd get like this tray, the teachers, right, bringing this tray of basically like dark mud. It looks like mud, and it'd say basically everything that you are is here. Okay, the only difference between you and what's in this tray is the arrangement of the molecules. It's the arrangement of the molecules. But anyway, look, the point is that digressing, I'm just saying that these things are not mentioned in this kind of like they're not mentioned in this scientific way, not in this explicit scientific way where it's if you're trying to take the science from it, it's vague. It's too vague to take the science from it, and it's very vague also to find huge errors with it as well. Like I said, except in some things. I mean, like right now, right, the seven heavens. What are they? I have no idea. Right? What I'm talking about? Seven heavens, Tibaqan, and this. I don't know what that means in terms of the science that we have. And we're not in a unique time in the world where all the science is correct. We're not in this unique time where that's it. Every single scientific theory we have now will be around in 1,000 years and will be considered true. That isn't the case. A lot will probably be false. Okay, so that's just how I view it anyway.
Well, I mean, for me, when the Quran says, it calls the earth to come together. For me, that says, God created gravity. Before there was no gravity. Rocks and stuff here were just flowing around, and then God caused the earth to come together. It came together. We had gravity, and then He created the sky, which is kind of like a barrier to kind of protect the earth. He's created that, and the sky, in my opinion, shouldn't be there, but God has made it kind of like firm, so it's not going to sort of like evaporate away and sort of like disappear. It's gonna, it's kind of made it kind of, so that it's going to be around the earth, and in the same way, the winds that go around the earth. Before, we didn't know about the jet streams, flowing around the kind of the in the sky, but now we know these winds, they're going round around the earth, and they're mentioned in the Bible and in the I can't remember if you mentioned in the Quran. And for me, these things, when you look at them more closely, they are scientific evidence that there's a force acting to create gravity, keep the sky there, keep the winds blowing, keep the life, sort of being sort of repeated again and again, and in the fact that the amount of rain that falls it's kind of just the right amount. If you look around, all the animals again watered and fed, and it's for me that's clear scientific evidence, and I think maybe people need to sort of like look more closely at it. Why these processes there instead of just saying, "Oh, this is natural."
No, I mean I see what you're saying, but still, like I said, I mean these things are just not said in that kind of explicit way in the Quran, right? I especially look at that verse of the that the birds, right? That Ma yumsikuhunna illa Rahman. None is holding, it's in, do you not see the birds flying in the sky? That none holds them up except Ar-Rahman. That nothing holds them up except Ar-Rahman. Right? So nothing is holding up except God. Okay, but we know that what's holding them up is also, the wind, the air currents, the movement of the wings, the structure of the bird, that they had their bones are hollowed.
Where did the wind come from?
Yeah, no, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying exactly. Okay, but the way the Quran mentions it is not mentioned in a scientific way, right? In fact, it's mentioned in a way where you could say that if you take it bluntly, that what is holding them up, that is God, right? So it's the natural processes that go into that. That is God, right? But anyway, look, I think we're diverging a lot on that. I just don't see the scientific. I don't see these scientific miracles and stuff. And I don't. I mean, I tend to keep my science, what I see in science, what I learn about science, separate from from the Quran, okay, because it's not strong enough. It's not specific enough to give that. Okay.
Yeah,
And for
but then
example,
it goes, okay,
even the verses like which talk about now, people talk about the idea of the Big Bang and the universe is expanding. From what I learned separately in science, I actually favor the idea that it's a steady state universe. I think that's a bit stronger, so that the universe is not expanding and there was no Big Bang. That's what I tend to that. Not that much. It's not like I accept that 100% against the Big Bang idea and expanding universe, but I tend a bit more towards the physicists which show which present those who have that model. The physicists who favor the model of a steady state universe. I favor that a little bit more than the expanding universe and Big Bang.
yeah, I try and concentrate on the things we can sort of test today. So things that happened in the past, yeah, you can never prove it. You can't, reproduce another universe. So there's no point in talking about
the Big Bang and expanding it. All of that is very theoretical. It's based on a lot of the mathematical stuff. Whereas I like I said, I like it's mainly the work of Mr. Eric Lerner. He did a lot of those kind of investigations. My favorite scientist is probably Nicholas Tesla, right? And he spoke a lot about this idea that the modern science is going in a direction where they go through equation after equation and theory after, and they go through all of these theoretical stuff which which gets further and further removed from reality, right? And Nikola Tesla, he a lot of his inventions are the things which gave us the modern world in a lot of ways. And so Eric Lerner is a lot more like that, where he looks into the actual it's more in terms of experimentation and data and these kind of things, and less reliance on equations and trying to backtrack the equations back to singularities and whatnot.
The children of Israel that's mentioned in the Quran, yeah, didn't God use science to make them believe?
Who?
Didn't God, children of Israel, at the time of Pharaoh, he said the 9 plagues and made the sea part.
That's not exactly science. That's not science.
Yeah, but then it's somewhat observable, isn't it? For me, it's somewhat observable. Yeah, it's kind of like scientific evidence.
Yeah, but these are the things which are the ayat, right? These are the breaking of the normal things, right? And even these things, okay, he didn't send polar bears, right, from the south, locusts and blood and frogs. These were things which were in Egypt, right? These were things which were there.
Yeah, but I'm saying, it was something observable. It wasn't based on, okay, this is God, yeah, you should believe in it.
Yeah. Of course, because they're science.
So in the sorry?
Yeah, because they were sent as signs, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying, for me, science is more about.
They weren't sent, by the way. Those 9 things. They weren't sent for the Bani Israel, were they? They were sent mainly for the Pharaoh and his people to scare, right? وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. The Quran talks about those kind of signs. They're only sent as to scare, right? وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. We only send those signs to make people afraid, okay? So then they will sort of like that shakes them, and then they can sort of pay attention. And this was before of the Quran. There was no need for that.
The snake and the rod turning, Moses staff turning the snake and his hand turning white. That was, in my opinion, shown to Pharaoh, to make him believe this is the truth. And the children of Israel, I think they're taking it as evidence as well. And on top of that, when they were, they saw the Red Sea part, that was, a sign for them to also, have faith in God. And also, when Moses struck that dead man with the
I accept all of that. I accept all of that. I mean, here's a question.
What sent us to make me fear?
Here's a question. Okay, why change the staff to the rod into a snake? Why not just, magic up a snake there? Why does a rod have to be involved? Why does Moses have to strike the sea in order for it to be parted? Why couldn't it have just been parted? Right? Why couldn't in the glowing hand, right? So to put your hand into your side, then bring it out, it will be glowing. Why these things have to be part of it? Why not just?
But it could have been anything. But God for whatever reason chose that.
Yeah, I mean that's how it seems to always be related to things like this. Like I said, the plagues and the things which were in Egypt, or things were already there. It's already known.
But I'm saying it was observable for me. Yeah, that's like scientific evidence. So the people weren't made to let to believe just because they were told that there's a God, they believe in it. They were shown signs, which is to me. So, for example, with Aaron Ra, I don't know if he saw a dead man brought back to life, or a staff turned to a snake, would he believe? I think he'd have to accept the evidence, and I think he would believe in a God.
That's why those sort of signs are not as convincing anymore. I mean, they're not. They shouldn't have been convincing anyway, to be honest. Okay, somebody, I don't know, somebody changing. Well, somebody changing for example, somebody changing a snake and a rod into a snake, and then telling you, okay, I want you to believe that 2 + 2 is 5. You're not going to believe them because of that. Okay, you're not going to believe them. They're not as related. These things were sent, as the Quran says, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا تَخْوِيفًا. We send them to be a source of fear, right? To scare people into scare them awake, right? Make them, pay attention. Pay attention to what? To what the messenger is actually saying, right? To what is being said. Which is why, when the Quran talks about the whole thing of abrogation, which is the abrogation of these kind of miracles, it's talking about, the what you have now is superior in terms of the Quran. What it is saying, it is superior, right? The verse where Allah says, "Hada yawmu yanfa'u as-sadiqina sidquhum lahum jannah." This is the day on this day is the day where the honesty of the honest shall benefit them. For them is Jannah, is gardens under which rivers flow. That's worth much more than all of these miracles, in my opinion.
So
that is something which is true. That's worth more than those miracles. That verse in the Quran and many others, okay, they're worth more than these miracles. They teach you something. Okay, that's the difference of this. The Quran, which I think is the only scripture which was related in terms of word for word from God. I don't think the others were like that. Okay, they teach you something. Okay, it's words of God that teach you something. That's much more valuable than a miracle which doesn't really teach you anything. If you witness a miracle, it shocks you. That's what it does.
The miracle is not really there to kind of teach you. The miracle is there to show that this prophet is true.
Yeah, it's exactly. Okay, but why should you believe that the prophet is true? It's not meant to show.
Because
he
made a claim.
The miracle is not there to show you that the prophet is true. Those miracles were sent to make you pay attention to him.
I think if someone comes with a claim that I've come from God and I'm going to show a miracle from God to make you believe. He's made a claim and he does that miracle. It's a reason to believe that he's a true prophet.
It's a reason to listen to him. It's not a reason to believe that everything he says is true. Right? I don't accept that.
Yeah, but then how is it's like when
because then what happens? Somebody does something like that, okay, and it could be a trick. Okay, there are tricks like this. Okay, Saharu, even the magicians of Fir'aun, right? Saharu ayun nas. They bewitched the eyes of people and they brought a great magic. Okay, right?
Yeah, but people know the magic. They never claimed that to be from God.
No, they said bi'izzati Fir'aun, right? By the izzah, by the glory of Fir'aun, right? When they were doing their magic, So Fir'aun is the one to follow, right? And they said, "Antum mujtami'un." Okay, they gathered the people. Are you ready? So that we can follow the magicians if they are victorious, right? So if the magicians are victorious, we'll follow what they say. Okay, if Musa is not okay, follow him. No, I mean that's not a criteria. It's just
Yeah, but
not a
then
criteria.
the kind of miracle that God does, yeah, that's mentioned in the Quran and the Bible, yeah, is the miracles, yeah, that cannot be done today. So you can't, in my opinion, you can't say, or some other people could nowadays do that miracle. They can't.
I'm
It's
not
not.
saying that. I'm not saying they can. I'm not saying they can. I'm just saying that a miracle in of itself, these kind of miracles, they're not made to make people to be a sign of that something is true or not true. A miracle in of itself does not show that. A miracle in of itself, it does not show um, if something is true or not.
Well, no, but it shows that the person saying it, he's made a claim and that it's turned out to be true. So if you read the
It shows that you
Gospels,
should pay attention. It shows you look. You should have a closer look, have a listen. Okay, it will wake you
but
up.
I'm saying you gotta,
But
you're only gonna have a listen, yeah, if you're gonna believe that person. So to make that, for that person to make you believe, he's got to make a claim, and then he's got to prove it, and then you're gonna sort of listen. But
even
because
if you
any person here couldn't pretend to be a prophet and make claims, and say, listen to me, but unless they've got something special that they can do to show you, yeah, that they got some other, divine force, backing them up, you're not gonna, you're not gonna really want to believe them.
no, I mean the claim. Okay, somebody makes a claim. Okay, I make the claim that I'm gonna, I don't know, part the sea. Okay, and then I do it. Okay, so now you should believe me that you should, I don't know, that murder is allowed. That doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but that's not gonna happen though. I mean, yeah, if someone's gonna part the sea first, God's not gonna make it possible, yeah, except someone, God chooses to do. So it's never gonna happen in the, that someone's gonna do a miracle, yeah, and be a false person, yeah, and they say, okay, I'm gonna do a
Okay,
miracle, yeah. Now you're gonna follow me. It's not gonna
okay,
happen.
but no, but the point is that the miracle is unrelated to the content of what the person is teaching.
Sorry,
It's
not sure what
it's
you mean.
un, it's unrelated in that kind of way. I don't see it as related. That's why I'm saying that when the Quran says no sign do we abrogate or cause to be forgotten except we bring something better than it or like it. It's talking about the abrogation of the Quran to the previous signs, right? To the previous signs.
You mean what, the previous miracles?
Yeah, yeah. That's what that
Yeah,
verse is.
I think that's talking more about the words of God rather than the miracles of God.
Yeah. No, I mean I think it's pretty clear. It's talking about the no, not the word. It's talking about the previous this kind of miracles. They don't come anymore. Muhammad was not given those kind of miracles, was he? He wasn't given those signs,
Yeah, but
and that's what they kept on asking.
we see, in my opinion, you can see the miracles now. We can now see how cells work, and in a cell, there's certain process going on, and we don't know what the
I
forces
mean
are that make these forces happen.
that's too late for about 1,000 years of people, right? 1,000 years of humanity for them. It's too late to see that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because each generation, yeah, God's gonna sort of make people believe in his own way. The way I say, nowadays we got the technology, we can see more closely how cells work, and
Yeah.
the way they
Yeah,
work.
those are signs,
Science can't
exactly.
explain it.
Yeah, I mean those are signs. Those in the end are signs. The signs of nature are signs. It's true, and that to contemplate them and look at them and see, that they are signs of God in the end. I mean, ayati, these are signs of God Himself. That's
Yeah,
what
so
He
that's
speaks.
for me.
Yeah.
For me, that's scientific evidence that you can even look closely at a cell, and you can see what's going on. But there's a force that making our cell live. And
Okay.
right at the moment, yeah, they're doing a lot of research, yeah, and they can only make a cell, yeah, from another living cell. They can't make a cell from just from molecules, from dead molecules.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean right
So
now they can't. You're right.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. How do I say, you need to ask him, yeah, how many years are you gonna wait, yeah, until you can say give up and say, yeah, we can't create life, we can only create from living things. How many years they're gonna wait? Because they're gonna be waiting for ages. In the same way, they'll never conquer death. They're never gonna conquer aging. and and it's like
I mean, you can't wait. If it is going to happen, you can't wait until it happens. Your life is not. You don't have that long of a life. Let's say it's going to take 250 years. You're not going to be able to wait 250 years. You're going to die
yeah.
before then. So, it's not. That's not a sort of like a question to ask. How long will it take? How long are you going to wait for? Anyway,
If I'm
look.
saying, it's like you can start like say, okay, we've tried we've got control of the DNA, control of all the how to create cell walls and everything, yeah, and we put it together, yeah, and it doesn't work,
No, but
there's
we're
nothing.
not.
We've tried everything. We can't try anything more.
No, who says you can't try anything more? And believe
Wait,
me, in 500 years, there's going to be a lot more that people can try because there's a lot, more technologies and things have changed. There's going to be a lot that people can try, which you can't try now.
No, I disagree because the base matter, yeah, the molecules and whatever, dead things. There's only so much you can try. It's never going to
Yeah,
the
look,
point. Yeah,
by the way, I'm not arguing that definitely people will be able to like create life and that kind of thing. I'm just saying that that's not something that's not something to pin your faith on.
well, I think it is because for me, that's why I base my faith on. Is on the science, because otherwise, it's just words, and they might mean something to you, but every religion could say, yeah, look, our God did this and did that, yeah, and also our faith is true because many religions, yeah, they claim, their God had done miracles, but if you look closely, yeah, it's like their miracles, yeah, they're not really proper miracles.
Are you talking about like you pin your faith in terms of the belief in God, that God exists?
Yeah, I'm telling you, in terms of I have to base my faith on science. I observe the world, I see creation, and I see the scientific evidence of it. In terms of even in evolution and the winds going around the earth and the gravity and all that. I see that as all these forces of God acting here. And if you look closely at these, gravity and life and the winds and the rainfall, yeah, they're miracles because these things on their own, by the laws of physics and chemistry, they shouldn't happen.
Okay, but no. The reason why I asked that is because you were saying earlier, like me, that you don't accept that you even need to believe in God to be saved, to have guidance, right?
Yeah,
You're saying
I think certain people, God made a good heart, and God will judge them what they like. And even though the atheists, yeah, the good persons, and I think they'll make to heaven. I may be wrong on that, but I think God's created atheists, so we can question ourselves. Yeah, where does faith come from? Is it just based on words, or is it based on science? Is it based on what? It needs to be based on reasoning. And
well, I
certain
mean,
people,
the very one of the first verses you can read when you open the Quran, right at the beginning, الذين يؤمنون بالغيب, those who have faith or belief in the unseen, right? In the end, we have to have faith that we're having faith in things which are unseen. We are having faith in things which are unseen, right? We having faith in those things because in the end it comes down to trust. That's just that
yeah, but it's
bottom
trust
bedrock.
based on logical reasoning. So you have to
Yeah,
use
it is.
logical
Yeah.
reasoning to get to believe in God first, and then have, because God's going to do some evil going to happen in the world and in your life, and you're going to have faith in God. Yeah, that okay, I have to be patient. I have to accept this. This is God's will. Yeah, that's the faith. I think that's what faith means to me. But before that, you have to use your the brain that God gave you to reason. Is there a God? Where the evidence? Why are there why the other religions with the different gods? Look at that, yeah, and based on logical reasoning rather than just okay, I'm going to have faith.
Yeah, I get you. But like I said, because we'll both agree that you don't need to even believe in God to have that kind of salvation or gain guidance or become, righteous or
Yeah. I
become,
think certain people are blessed to be good, and they'll make it to heaven. Certain people, yeah, they can be tried, and certain people God made evil, and you can't change it. So it's just something that we got to accept and not really understand.
So
We're
you think
not on
that
God's level.
there are some people who are just evil and they can't do anything about it because God made them that way.
Well, that's what God said in the Quran, that certain people He's made evil, and they'll never be guided. So, for example, look at Satan. he used to be an angel, in my opinion, and for whatever reason, he's going to hell, and
No, but he's going to hell for what he did and what he promised to do and what he was I'm saying it's not because he was created that way.
Well, this is it. Whether someone's created to be evil, that's someone that only God will know. But in my opinion, God's given us a soul, and we got to direct our soul to good. And some people,
you see,
they choose.
This is what I was mentioning before. You see, when he's saying that, okay, that having a miracle, having a miracle, okay, is not going to be able to help you judge what is true or not, right? And what I was mentioning before that we need to, that even before having people, directing people to have faith or belief in the Quran, you should make firm in them. They should have a firm understanding and a love for truth and justice and compassion, and have these even above the Quran, right? So when you say that that God just created the people God created them evil for whatever way, okay, and they're just going to be like that, and then God is going to punish them for that, okay. That's exactly the sort of thing that you shouldn't believe if somebody brings a miracle, right? Somebody brings a miracle, spits whatever. It doesn't matter. You should never believe that about God. You should never believe that he made people evil and then he's going to punish them for it. You see what I mean? I don't care what miracle anybody brings me for that. I will not accept it.
Yeah, but I'm trying to say is like, even the Quran mentions, God has made certain people,
If I believe the Quran said that, I wouldn't follow the Quran, or at least those parts. I'd say they're nonsense. Okay,
but is it a verse that says that?
It doesn't matter if I'm just saying, for argument's sake, let's say a verse says that. Okay, I would reject that verse.
Yeah, but this is it. In my opinion, you can't reject it, because all you can say, look, we don't understand. This is what God says.
No, I'm just saying, for argument's sake, yes. Look, like I've said that before. Like I said about the backbone and the rib. Okay, I've said that this is a scientific error in the Quran. Okay, if I'm just going to look at it purely on science, this is a scientific error in the Quran. Okay, that's what I used to believe before. Okay, but at the same time, I had faith that no, it isn't. Okay, I had faith that no, it isn't. But I didn't see any way that I would ever see that it wasn't an error in the Quran. I couldn't see how could that be, right? And it's one, and that's why I can have faith in other things in the Quran, which I can think, okay, that doesn't seem right. But I have faith that even if I die not being able to resolve these myself, okay, I have a faith that no, it is true. The verse is true. I just don't see how. That's fine, okay. But now I'm saying that, let's say for argument's sake, okay, that it's not because I'm not seeing it or anything. A verse actually says what you're saying, that people are created evil and God is going to punish them for that. Let's say that is actually what it is, not because I'm not seeing it, okay, but that's what it actually is, okay. I would reject that verse. That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying, I don't think you can do that. If God says that, then you've got to really accept it.
That. No, that's why I'm saying I'd reject it, because I wouldn't believe that he would say that. Okay, you have to have a faith in God which is above the Quran. You have to have a faith. There has to be some kind of faith, some kind of belief or understanding of God which is even above the Quran. Okay, it has to be. You have to have that. Otherwise, one of the ways that you judge the Quran is by looking at it in that kind of way. So you recognize God in the Quran. Okay, you I recognize God in the Quran because there's something which we can understand about God independent of the Quran.
Yeah, I think I'll try and find that verse, but I think this is it. People sometimes make an impression of God which is not correct. For example, Aaron Ryan thinks he expects God to be all good, and say things that he wants to.
No, God is all good, but the problem is it's different. That He's not just all good, right? So those people who put that thing: if God is all good and all powerful, there'd be no evil in the world, etc., etc. But God is not just all good and all powerful and all knowledgeable. He doesn't just have three qualities. Okay, He has many more qualities than that, right? and they are working, they are in play in this sort of thing as well.
Yeah, so then I think Aaron Ra doesn't accept that God can do evil. God can give cancer and disease and famine. He thinks God doesn't do that, but God does do that. Everything
I
that
don't.
comes here is from God.
Yeah, in sort of a metaphysical way, but not in like, God chooses. Okay, you're gonna have this. You're gonna have this. No, if somebody, for example, is sick, all right, or a contagious disease, and they decide to go and visit you, and you decide to hug them and this and that stuff, okay, and you get sick, God is not doing that to somebody. Okay,
Yeah, but how did
this
he get
is
sick?
he got sick because somebody who is sick infected him.
Yeah, but
Got sick
where did
because he didn't say no, stay away. You're
no, but
sick. Stay away from
where
me.
did the disease come from?
What do you mean? Okay, yes. Now you're going back to, if you can go follow things all the way back. Yes, okay. But in the end, you have to put
That's what I'm saying. Isn't it? In the end, everything comes from God. It's like,
yeah. Like I said, in a metaphysical sense, yes, okay.
and
But no, but if you go out and kill somebody, okay, God didn't do that. You did that. Okay,
yeah,
that evil
I agree.
action. Yeah,
In the
yeah.
certain things God does, but there are certain things we make our choices, to do evil, and those are things we're going to be judged on. But what God does, yeah, in terms of creating diseases and cancers and famines, yeah, we can hold God to question to that. We go accept this is what God does. We just God says it's a test.
No,
We
yeah,
go have faith.
that's part of this world. Exactly, that's part of the natural world which he created in this world, and he put natural cause and effect things that happen with it. Okay, there's somebody who spends their time around radiation. Okay,
Yeah,
they will
yeah,
get cancer. All right, and that's one of the things that he's one of the things in this world. So that's what I'm saying when I look at that verse where it's a key verse for me in terms of understanding these kind of things. God is the one who's holding the birds in the sky. Okay, he's saying that because he created the laws which hold them in the sky. Okay, he's the one who's doing it, and that's
yeah,
how the Quran speaks about these things. Any cause and effect things, laws which he has placed in nature or even in as part of the human soul and psyche. Okay, he always in the Quran it's always attributed that I did it. That's me.
yeah.
Okay, anything which is that cause and effect, including the person who becomes deaf, dumb, and blind. The one God says we put a screen over their heart or this, or we put like wax in their ears. Okay, he said I did that. Okay, but in terms of that was part of the cause and effect laws which I've put in this world, right? Just like I am the one holding the birds in the sky. Okay, how I'm doing that, yeah, but the natural laws which I've put in place, that's me.
Yeah,
These natural
yeah.
laws, that's me. Okay, I'm holding those birds in the sky, nothing but me. All right. In the same way, when God speaks about these things happening to people, like people becoming blind or they will not see, or that God has sealed their eyes, they've basically sealed their own eyes with their own actions. Okay, but God will say that because that's how, because God could have made it that somebody can do certain actions and their hearts don't become sealed, right? The more sin you do, okay, the more it blinds your own heart. That's like a law in the human heart. That's the cause and effect there. Okay, so when somebody does that until eventually their eyes their spiritual side becomes blind. Okay, God says I did that, but it's really they did that, yeah, as a cause and effect action.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have a choice of whether to do good or bad. And, if God sees that we're not going to be doing good, even though you believe in God and whatever, it's not going to matter. You know, you'll think you're guided, you believe because you believe in the Quran, but you're still going down and you're doing evil. You're deceiving yourself because,
Yeah, yeah,
it's the evils, do I say God is not going to guide you unless you're doing good? So I tell my kids, yeah, if you want to be guided by God, be good people,
yeah,
be
yeah.
righteous, be
You
just, and
create your own
and
guidance,
then God will
exactly.
guide you.
Yeah, exactly. That video which I translated of Hassan al-Maliki, create your own guidance or misguidance, right? Yeah, and you do create your own guidance or misguidance. وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا زَادَهُمْ هُدًى. Those who guide themselves, God Himself will increase them in guidance, right?
Mm.
So there has to be that action, You choose the good, you get given good. You choose the bad, you get given the bad. All right, nice. So look, it's getting late now, but we've had a very nice, interesting conversation, right?
Yeah,
I don't know how
thanks.
many people I almost forgot that people are listening. How many people are still online? 7 people viewing right now. Okay. I can't check out the chat. There's probably a lot of chat messages that I don't see. If anybody has something they want to add very quickly, please type it again or copy and paste it, and we'll highlight it. I'll give like a minute or so to do that before signing off. There's one thing I did, maybe I'll mention it now. I did have a conversation, a Zoom call with Dr. Khalid Abul Fadl, so of the Usuli Institute in America. It was very kind of him to reach out to me so we could speak, and we might be trying to arrange something in the future. So we had a very nice conversation with him and his lovely wife. We were all speaking together, and he was very much concerned about Hassan al-Maliki. He said that he feels like he's a kindred spirit in terms of the way he's thinking, and he feels that very much. And so we were speaking about. I was just filling him in on some of the things regarding his situation, and he was also mentioning this channel, some of the like video lectures which I've done, especially that one about Quranic Islam versus inherited Islam. So he was mentioning that he would like more of that kind of dialogue, that kind of like dialogue discussions to be brought forward in the sort of the American scene. So we might try to find a way to collaborate on that in the future. Anyway. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. I think we'll end it there. Okay, Sam. I'll probably stop the stream there. You don't have to sign off. I'll just end the broadcast. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and inshallah, see you next week. I think next week, I'm not sure if it's the last week before Ramadan, or we'll have another week after that. So this is the 48th stream. I think actually we've done 49, but 48 topics. I think there was something we had to repeat. So 2 more, it will be 50, and I guess like 2 more into Ramadan will represent those 2, which I think there was 1 week where we missed, and 1 week which is a repeat. Then it will be a complete 52 weeks, 1 year of these streams. Like I said, in Ramadan I might slow it down. I might slow down this Quranic contemplation, caravan of contemplation. I might slow it down to once a month after Ramadan, or once every 2 weeks, just to give space for other stuff I'd like to do. Maybe have some other guests on, or maybe just even give myself this time that I usually spend doing this to make some other videos, because I haven't really had the time to make new videos in a while. Scripted videos on a specific topic. But like I said, these streams have been very good. I mean, one thing I'm very happy about is that they forced me to sort of like put in a lot of things which I've sort of like thought about and had ideas about, and I've just been able to now have them out there somewhere. And you can hear the baby crying. One thing which is good as well is that in the future, whatever happens to me, my kids will be able to hear me, right? Okay. Anyway, so I'll leave it at that, and thank you all for coming on, and we'll come until almost exactly 2 hours. Thank you for staying on if you've been listening all this time, and assalamu alaikum, and see you next week.